One thing I think we can all agree upon is hot outside. We'll get started here. We have tonight the fruit of the Spirit. The three we'll talk about tonight will be faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Thank you, Brandon. You know, we started Sunday with the fruit of the Spirit, preparing my heart and passing it on. And then Monday, we dealt with love, kindness, and goodness. And also, we introduced the Fruit of the Spirit survey. So hopefully you all saw the survey, which is an excellent document. It's just for you. It's not, we did not make it public, but it is a great survey. And then last night, Brother Smith taught on joy, peace, and patience. And tonight, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I don't think those are new topics or anything new. There's some things that we have probably seen most of our life, and some things we have been living by. So we'll just share a few ideas with you tonight, and we'll move through this lesson. So there are some numbers up here I put on my PowerPoint: 24/7, 365, 100%, and 212. So those deal with faithfulness. When it comes to faithfulness, we should be faithful 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 100% of the time. And we'll talk about that 212 in just a minute. But those are some things when it deals with faithfulness. The book, by the way, is also an excellent book. This curriculum, and I do want to thank the education director with Sister Jackson and the team for putting together this booklet. It's a very good book, by the way. And do you need an extra book? Okay, you need an extra? We do have some extra surveys, by the way, too. We'll get Brandon to pass out some of the booklets here. You can raise your hand and we can get you the booklet. Let's move through here. I think I'm advancing this, by the way, tonight. Let's see what we have. Yeah, it worked. The first one worked. That's always good. So in this survey, it asks some very good questions. One of the questions was, I am dedicated to God and do what I can do to help Him. This is a question for you. As we go through this lesson, you will see this will be an eye exam, is what it is. You know, this is kind of the theme. It's an eye exam. It's not about me. It's not about the person sitting next to you. It's about you, yourself. It's I. Because it's very easy to kind of solve everyone else's problems. But one of the biggest challenges is solving I problems. And the second question I posted here: so far I am not fully devoted or committed to God. This is why it's a personal survey. You know, we wouldn't want anyone in here necessarily standing up and admitting to that one. We're not trying to embarrass anyone, but you know yourself if it's a yes or no. Number 3 question: I do not find happiness or fulfillment. And that kind of depends on the day too, I guess. That could depend on the day. I think Brother Smith, by the way, did an excellent job talking about the difference between happiness and joy. You know, we used to teach a class where I worked, and it was employee satisfaction versus employee happiness. And I made it clear my job was not to make employees happy. It was simply, I was responsible for employee satisfaction, which means when you come into the building, you have lights. You have air if it's hot. If it's cold, you have heat. That's satisfaction. Because trying to make someone happy is virtually impossible. to keep them happy for a long period of time. You know, we used to have an awards program, and if your name was called, you came up to the front, you got that award, and you were happy. Some people stayed happy longer than others. And then the last question here was, I do not strive to be a person of integrity. Once again, this is part of the survey questions, some very good questions, and it's for you to answer yourself. Now, I think to deal with faith, we're going to try something here. I've tried this before, and we're going to do an experiment here, is what we're going to do. It's called the faith test. The faith fall is what it is. So I'm going to get, any volunteers want to help me out? Roger, you right up front. Why don't you come help me out? So I got Roger Davis here. Give Roger a hand, by the way. Roger's getting up and he's going to help me out. So this is called the faith fall. I've done it before. So Roger, have I ever done anything wrong to you?
No.
He says no. Do you trust me?
Yes.
He says yes. Roger, where are you from?
Chicago.
He's from Chicago. Cook County?
Yes, sir.
He's from Cook County, Chicago. South Side.
Yes, sir.
He's from South Side, Chicago. You don't get a lot of people from the South Side trusting folk. Cal Smith is from Chicago, South Side. Guess where I'm from?
South Side.
I'm from South Side, Chicago. So we're okay, right? So far. Done anything, ever done anything wrong to you? He says no, y'all. You all are witnesses. So Roger is gonna, the faith fall says, he's going to stand up here and he's going to fall in my arms is what he's going to do. So Roger, why don't you come right here, Roger. Come to the top step. See, it would be easy for him to stay down here and fall into my arms. But see, the faith fall says he goes to the top step. This is Vacation Bible School, right? We're learning. So the faith fall. Anyone else want to volunteer? Okay, so turn around, Roger, face the baptismal. I need to put this down, by the way. So on the count of 3, the faith fall says, Roger will fall into my arms. I've never done anything wrong to him. He trusts me. But it seems like we have a problem out here. I've got one person that trusts me, and there's 110 that don't trust me. So Roger, the faith fall on the count of 3, turn, face the baptismal. Do you all want to count it off? You all don't want to even be a part of this. So I'll do it now. On the count of 3, Roger. You know, you're just going to fall back. But turn completely around, Roger. Yeah, like that. 1, 2, 3. It says review and discuss. Let's review and discuss what just happened. Wait, so don't leave yet, Roger. It's obvious he didn't trust me on the top step. So move to the second step, Roger. This is a little bit closer. On the count of 3, you're going to fall back. 1, 2, 3. Come to the bottom step, Roger. Something is not working like I practiced, by the way. And this is the last opportunity on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Roger, you can have your seat now. Thank you, Roger. So let's talk about why. He said I never did anything wrong to him. He trusted me up until the faith fall. What happened?
Right?
What? Physics. He said physics. Who said common sense? Somebody said physics, common sense. What about faith?
But there's no history of you catching him.
This brother William said there's no history of me catching him. He could have trusted me in some areas, but there's no history in me catching him.
He had faith that you weren't going to catch him.
He had reverse faith. We connected, we're both from the south side. We've been here, but something happened there. See, and by the way, Roger's a very smart person. He retired from 3M after 35 years. That had nothing to do with this faith fall. So the point is, sometimes though, we treat God just like Roger treated me. But there's a difference in me and God. But yet, we treat God just like Roger treated me. We don't have the confidence and the faith in God when he says, you can fall in my arms. And that's what faithfulness is all about, because God has been faithful. So therefore, when he says you can fall, he's never dropped anyone. I haven't either. But there's always a first time. And Roger knew that. So the faith fall says with faith you can fall with confidence. Roger didn't have confidence. We're not like God. God, you can fall anytime and he'll catch you. So that's the example. Anyone else want to try the faith fall, by the way? No, let's move on then. When doubt creeps in, and we should be faithful, sometimes we're not always faithful when doubt creeps in. This is an old story, but let's just read through this biblical story to see when God speaks, what happens to faith. Here's the story. Let's read it. It simply says, "Where is your wife, Sarah?" They ask him, talking to Abraham. "There in the tent," he said. Then one of them said, "I will surely return to you about this time next year. And Sarah, your wife, will have a son." That's good news, by the way. You're going to have a baby, Sarah. Isn't that good news? That's one of the greatest joys in life. Don't you all remember when you had your first child? Oh, some of y'all, well, yeah, some of y'all haven't yet. Situation here, but that's a great thing. You're going to have a child, is what it's saying here. When we get to the next verse, now Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him. Abraham and Sarah were already very old. Someone say very old. Very old. We're talking about very old. There's no one in this auditorium that was old as Sarah and Abraham, I don't think. Anyone know how old Abraham was when this story was written?
Maybe 90, I guess.
He about 100.
99.
99. He's 99. Can anyone in here imagine being 99? See, y'all can't even imagine being 99. Y'all, you know where I'm going, right? And your wife comes to you and says, "Got some good news." I ran into a guy about a month ago in the gym, and he's 45. And he said, "You'll never guess what my wife told me. I already got a son, 21. We finna have another baby." And he said I had to pretend to be happy. But he let me know on that treadmill the whole time, 30 minutes on the treadmill, about he wasn't happy. He said, "I already got," and I don't know, but that's good news. But Abraham about 99, I think Sarah's about 90, right? She's about 90 for your Bible. 99 and 90. 49 and 50 is getting on up there, right? For a baby. So the news comes, you're old, but you're going to have a baby. Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed in verse 12 to herself, and she thought, am I worn out and my Lord is old? Will I now have this pleasure? See, she thinking. That's logical thinking, isn't it? That's logical. All these years and I ain't had a child yet. And now you telling me I'm 90, he 99, and we're going to have a son. So verse 13, then the Lord said to Abraham, see, the Lord is speaking now. He says to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, will I really have a child now that I am old? See, the Lord is talking to Abraham. Verse 14 says, is anything too hard for the Lord? Is it, church? That's a question. Is there anything too hard for the Lord? Even if I'm 99, even if she's 90, is anything too hard? That's a rhetorical question. We already know the answer. But then it says, I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son. Then you get to the verse 15. Now, Sarah was afraid, so she what? She just kind of made the situation worse. She lied and said, I did not laugh. But he said, yes, you did laugh. Somebody's telling the truth and somebody's telling a lie. We already know who's lying. Even what you think God knows about it. Some of y'all are thinking something right now, and God already knows what it is. And it might not be about this lesson right here, because we're dealing with life, by the way. And as we always say when we introduce ourselves in adult class, we know about attention span. We know when you're sitting down there, you've had a long day and it's 7:37. And we know about attention span. So we're going to always say your mind's going to go out there, but we're just asking you to bring it back real quick. See, some of y'all been out there already thinking about, who's still working in here? Anybody have a job in here? Okay, a lot of people. Y'all have to go to work tomorrow? Anybody calling in sick tomorrow? Y'all going tomorrow, right? Okay. We got one hand in there. But we know about life and we know attention span, so we're just asking you to stay with us. But she lied. Didn't have the faith. Faith, a lack of faith sometimes will have you what? Have you lying. And sometimes even to yourself. Next here. Let's look at next one here. So the question is, how much is 95% commitment to the Lord? Somebody said not enough. Who said that? Sister Miller. She said not enough. 95% not enough. Thank you, because that's going to lead us right into the next point. How much is 95% is pretty, it's a high percentage, right? In a lot of things, that'd be pretty good. That's right. If the Cowboys won 95% of their games, that'd be pretty good, wouldn't it? So y'all would like that, right? Somebody said that would be terrible. But that would be pretty good, 95%. If the Saints won 95%. Huh? So how much is 95% commitment to the Lord? Sister Miller said, not enough. What should it be? Oh, let's y'all pass the test. Let's move on. See, there's something about not enough and almost. Almost. See, you can almost get something and not obtain it. Here's a story. Let's look at it. And this is one of the stories where I'm thinking it's as close as someone making it into heaven as anyone I've seen. They almost made it. On Judgment Day, you almost. Now, I've been in some situations where I say, just do bad. Don't get that close. Even my favorite teams, if they're going to get beat bad. I don't want you to get beat by 1 point. Right. Just beat them bad, by the way. Because 1 point hurts me because they what? They almost won. And that's a lot of almost. So here's a story. Let's look at it, though, because it's as close. There may be some other ones, and we'll look at one more. But let's look at this story because Matthew 19:16 through 22. Just then, a man came up to Jesus and asked, "Teacher, what good thing must I do to get eternal life?" That is a good question, by the way. We should be asking that question even tonight. What must I do? Because I want eternal life. You're going to have something eternal. But when you're asking, and by the way, if you don't want to know the answer, don't ask the question. So what must I do? Verse 17 says, "Why do you ask me about what is good?" Jesus replied, "There's only one who is good. If you want to enter life, keep the commandments." So you ask the question, I'm going to give you an answer. Okay, keep the commandments. You know what to do now because you said you wanted to enter eternal life. So verse 18, which ones? He inquired. There's a lot of them. Which ones? You get to verse. So Jesus replied, "You shall not murder." Check that box. Ain't murdered nobody, ain't planning to murder nobody. Got that one checked. Pat on the back, right? You shall not commit adultery. Hey, ain't got no problem with that. Pat on the back. I got that one. So things are looking good right now. I'm at 20%. I might make it in here. Then the next one is, you should not steal. Look, I've got money. I don't need to steal. Don't you know everybody that has money, it doesn't keep them from stealing, though. Right? While they looking at you, some of the rich folk in there doing what? Oh, yeah. Aisle 4, chasing you around. Some of the rich folk are in aisle 1 getting what they want to. And so, you shall not steal. You should not give false testimony. I ain't lying on nobody. See, I'm looking good about right here. This is what the man says. And then he says, honor your father and mother. I love my father and mother. They're going to get my honor. I want to honor them. And then it says, and love your neighbor as yourself. Now, I had a little problem with that one at one time, but I got that right. So I love my neighbor as myself. So now I'm 100%. I'm ready to go in now. I'm ready now. So why didn't you just stop right there? Rich man, rich young ruler, why didn't you just stop? You got all the boxes checked. But something didn't feel right. I'm doing all of this. So you get to verse 20, all these I have kept, the young man said, what do I still lack? Jesus answered, if you want to be perfect and whole, go sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me. 2 things. Go and sell, and then come follow me. Got a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. He worked hard for that stuff, didn't he? But you asked the question, what do you need to do? But do you really want to do it? So what's keeping you back tonight? Is there anything keeping you back tonight? Has God spoken to you in terms of giving you signs of what you need to do? Has he done it? And are you doing it? But for the rich man, look, he says, look, when the young man heard this, he was young too, by the way. If I sell all this stuff, I might live a long time without all of my stuff. So the young man, he went away sad because he had great wealth. Young and rich. That seems to be a good combination. Young and rich. I know one of the things ain't gonna happen. Now 2 of them ain't gonna happen to me. I've crossed the threshold of the young, and I'm still not rich, and I don't think I'm going to get to the second part. But young and rich, but he went away sad. At this juncture, it looks like he almost made it in. He could have punched his ticket, but he went away sad. Sister Miller made a point. We're going to look at almost. If you don't want to know the answer, don't ask the question. You know, and I put this up here. We had a program at where we worked running a while back, and it was called Create a Buzz About You. It was a program where employees wanted to know why they could not get ahead on the job. You know, because sometimes you can't talk to employees. Orlando worked with a lot of employees. He dealt with a lot of complaints. But sometimes you want to tell employees, look, you need to quit hanging out with this certain person on the job. But you can't tell them that. And by the way, you need to dress a little better. That's holding you back. You need to show up on time, by the way. You're always late. You need to show, but sometimes you have to be very careful. So we created this program because employees said, I want to know what's holding me back. I'm smart. I've been on the job. What's holding me back? So we said, okay, we're going to create this program and we're going to tell you what's holding you back. But you have to enter the program voluntarily. And once we tell you that, then you can't use it against us. Oh, everybody was happy then. I'm going to move up the ladder. I'm going up. And so we start meeting with people. This is what's holding you back. And the first meeting, one manager said, look, this guy that comes in, he's always sharp and everything, but his shoes, he has the worst pair of shoes. He said, I gave him $5 and told him to go get his shoes shined. He got a nice suit on, but people look at you. They judge you. And he said, I wouldn't hire anybody that wore shoes like that. They run over. And I said, well, you know, he's a good worker, right? Yeah, but he had that against him. So he just told him, your shoes run over. You need to go. He accepted that. Then the program was moving along. The more we started telling people what was holding them back, the more problems we started having. Yeah, we had to stop that program. Yeah, we had to stop that program. Yeah, we stopped it because we started having problems. But we were just telling them the truth. This is what's holding you back. Your attitude. You got a bad attitude. In staff meetings, you know, people don't trust you. You're always out there gossiping, talking. So we were just telling them like it was. I'm a man. Tell it like it is. I can take it. Very few of them could take it. We stopped that program. Faithfulness requires complete, not 95% complete. We understand that almost is not good enough in certain areas of life. We do understand that, by the way. For y'all that play the lottery, we ain't talking about what you're doing. We just talking about the lottery. Almost not good enough. If you go and get, how many numbers does it take to win this thing?
Looks like 6.
Somebody said looks like 6. They don't know. I'm looking at Portia said look like 6. I don't know about this thing. It just looks like that. I can tell you somebody that can tell you, because Pam and I had a friend, husband and wife, not long ago, called us and said, let's go to dinner. We got some good news for you. Got some good news, yeah? And I said, well, wow, good news. And we got there and we were eating and everything, and they said, guess what? You pregnant? You 57 years old. That's what we think. No, we won the lottery.
All right.
You won the lottery? Yeah, we won the lottery. And Pam was kind of kicked me under the chair there on the table. They won the lottery. And they did. Good people too. But they know what it takes. See, you can get 2 of those numbers. What's the most y'all gotten, by the way? Come on, tell me. What's the most y'all gotten? Some of y'all, have you gotten at least 5? You know, when the lottery first started in Texas, you can Google this. There was a preacher up in Dallas. He played the lottery. I think it was 1992. I think it when it started. But the preacher in Dallas, he prayed, not Church of Christ, by the way, but he played the lottery and he won. But he didn't want his members to know he played. So what he did, he very smart preacher. He gave the ticket to his secretary. He said, you go cash that in for me. I'll break you off a little bit of it, but bring it on back. She went down there to the commission, cashed it in, but she had a student loan he didn't know about. See, that's what happened. Google that. They offset the lottery winnings to her student, so her loan was paid for. Blessed be the name of the Lord. He paid for that. And then he tried to claim it, so he lost twice. He was still exposed. That was my ticket. Well, it was yours, but now, so he lost twice. But almost is not good enough. We understand that. For y'all that run the marathon, I know we got some marathon runners in here. From my understanding, it's 26.2 miles. You can run 26 miles. And you can end the race. Who's running the marathon? We got a couple. Yeah, okay, yeah. Right here. The husband, he said, not me, it was her. It's 26.2 miles from what I understand. But you can labor, you can put all that work in and run 26 miles. You won't get an award for it because it's 26, almost. I ran 26 miles, man. My feet are hurting. You're going to give me something. You're going to have to get out. 26.2. Almost is not good enough. We understand that, don't we? Now, that 212 degrees. This is strawberry jelly, by the way. The directions say you need to bring the water to a boil, which is 212 degrees. You can go to 211, and this is what you're going to get, some strawberries and some water. That's going to be your strawberry jam, by the way. Because almost is not good enough. Acts 26. This is one story we're very familiar with, too. See, this is that almost scenario. You've got someone teaching the gospel. Let's look at what Paul's doing. Acts 26, verse 24, actually through 28, says, now as he thus made his defense, that's Paul, Festus said with a loud voice, Paul, you are beside yourself. You crazy. Much learning is driving you mad. Verse 25, but he said, I am not mad, most noble Festus, but speak the words of truth and reason. For the king, before whom I also speak freely, knows these things, for I am convinced that none of these things escapes his attention, since this thing was not done in a corner. King Agrippa, let me talk to you. I'm not talking to Festus, by the way. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know that you do believe. Then Agrippa said to Paul, you almost, in this short period of time, Paul must have been some kind of teacher, y'all. Look at that Bible study. Because Agrippa, in this short period of time, you almost persuaded me. But once again, almost. Y'all heard this saying right here. This means the champions or winners get a cigar. Y'all seen them smoking cigars? Y'all seen all the Cowboys last year smoking cigars, didn't you? When they won the championship?
No.
Portia said no. We were close. Almost. But no
cigar.
Celebration. That's what it says. You rich young ruler, almost not good enough. King Agrippa, almost not good enough. God asked for complete commitment. Non-negotiable, 100%. So the question is simply, are you a weekend Christian or an everyday Christian? That's the question for us. Weekend or everyday? We do pretty good on the weekend, but everyday Christian. Let's see. The next fruit of the Spirit is self-control. When I looked at this, it's two words. I tried to break out to two words. The first one is control, and the second one is self. How do you control yourself? How do you do it? How do you control? This is where we're going to get into the eye exam. How do you control yourself? Self-control. How do you do it is the question. We do pretty good at controlling others. But the question is controlling self. Controlling self. How do you control yourself? Not talking about anyone else, but who? Self. A primary element to our disciplined life as a Christian is self-control. So these were some questions about self-control. We're going to move through and we're going to look at The eye exam. Focus on I. Think about I. Comment only on I. Don't compare I to anyone else. And if you do a comparison, compare I to Jesus, okay? This is another story, though, that is very familiar with and I like it because it includes a tax collector. So I like tax collectors that come out on top of stories, by the way. They come out on the, they don't do very well overall. 95% of the time they don't do very well. Only 5% they'll do well. But here's the story about the Pharisee, I believe, and the tax collector. And so you can see the issue of the I portion. Some people can only look good if they make other folk look. Yes. Have y'all seen anyone like that lately? So let's look at this right quick. And as we move through, Bible says in Luke 18, to some who were confident of their own righteousness and looked down on everyone else, Jesus told this parable. Verse 10, 2 men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed, God, that's the first I, thank you that I, second I, am not like the other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. See how he puts him down? And so that's what he does. He puts him down. He says in verse number 12, I fast twice a week and give a tenth of all I get. But the tax collector stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven, but beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And now here's an I that really matters. That's God. I tell you that this man, or Jesus, I tell you this man rather than the other went home justified before God. For all those who exalt themselves will be humble, and all those who humble themselves will be exalted. Don't put others down to make you look good. Self-control. Do you have control over yourself? Are some questions I'm asking. What's the secret to controlling yourself? Do you know yourself? Anyone in here do you know yourself? If you're put in a situation, do you know what you do? Yeah, we know. Who are you? If you had to describe yourself to someone who has never met you, what would you say about yourself? Some people talk about what they've done and where they've been. This is how a lot of people describe themselves. But if you had to describe yourself, how would you do it? What would you say? What if others had to describe you? Would the descriptions match? Or would someone say, I've never seen that person? If we went to your next door neighbor house and said, describe your next door neighbor, we just want to know what you think about him. Could we stand up here and say, this is what your next door neighbor said? Given that some next door neighbors are off also, we would consider that. We know they may not all be there. But have you ever lost yourself? And if you did you find yourself? Is anybody here lost tonight? Have you ever lost yourself? The next set of questions is control. Let's talk about, there's something about being in control. Most people like being in control of things. If you're driving, there's a term called, they're even backseat drivers. You know why they're yelling to the front? Because they want to be in control. They want to be in control. Flying, you want to be in control. That's why some people have a problem flying. Relationships. Some people want to know, where did you go? Where you been? You're 5 minutes. They want control, by the way. I got stuck in traffic. You're 10 minutes late. They want control. Work relationships. Some managers micromanage. You ever had a micromanager? Tell me what I need to do and get out of my way, manager. Always looking, what you doing? I'm doing my work. You're the one messing me up, delaying. So micromanaging, you know why? Because they want, if you want to do the work, you do it, manager. They micromanage. How do you maintain self-control? That's the question. So I asked Pat that. You know, we were doing some things. What Pat told me, Pat Bradford, he said, look, I made up my mind. And he struck, when he said, I made up my mind, I'm going to control myself. That got me going because it's a mindset. See, the only way you're going to control yourself is make up your mind. That's the only way that's the start. You have to make up your mind. So Daniel made up his mind, by the way. Did y'all know that? He made up his mind, I'm not going to do this. So when he made up his mind, that's the start of self-control. Did you know weight loss, by the way, is one of the hardest, is really not physical, is what they say. Now, this is something we can disagree on. Weight loss is not a physical challenge, it's a mental one. Now, we can disagree on that. I don't have no problem with that because I know there's a lot of physical problems. But the experts will tell you this is a mental challenge. You know, when I went home last night, about 9:15, 9:20, I looked in the refrigerator. What's in there? See, that's a mental challenge. I'm hungry though, by the way. My stomach, I know it's 9:15. This says 9:15, but what my stomach says, look, you hungry, feed me. See, I could have said, okay, I'm going to drink some water. I'm going to go to bed. That's what the experts tell me to do. They said, drink some water. No, I'm not going to do that. Because I told Pam, I said, I'm going to stop by Whataburger. She said, that's kind of heavy, isn't it? No, Whataburger's just right. The Whataburger's just right. So I said, let's stop by. Now let's go home. I said, well, we got some ribs at home. They're heavier than the Whataburger. I went home, cut me up 2 ribs, put them in there, had no problem sleeping. The only thing I do not eat late at night, I learned I was getting old when I ate some Wolf brand chili. Do not eat Wolf brand chili. I told Pam it was the crackers that did it. It wasn't the Wolf brand chili. She said it was the Wolf brand chili. That's the only thing I do not eat late at night. But yeah, so they say this is a mental challenge, by the way. You got to make up your mind, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. I'm not going in that refrigerator at 9:15 at night. And I know how it works sometimes. You don't do it, but at 10:30 you will get out of bed and go right back in there at 10:30. I know how these things work, by the way. But it's a mental check. You got to make up your mind, is what they say. Losing weight is one of the hardest journeys. Why? I call it a holic. This is just something I came up with, a holic. It is also a kind of habit. You could be a workaholic. And alcohol, those things that you got to make up your mind. I have relatives that are alcoholics, and I want it more than they do. I said, I wish you would stop drinking. That won't do it. They're not going to stop until what? Till they make up their own mind. Now, I've seen it over and over. Let's move through here. Okay, now, see, you got to make up your mind. That was a young kid back in the day. This is way back in the day. See, this is why I had to put this up here. There's something back in the day, was in the 70s, called Boone's Farm. They call it Boone's Farm. I don't know why they call it that, but there was something called Boone's Farm apple wine. And this he was in 8th grade, and he went out, and he never really drank, but he got a hold to some of this Boone's Farm. He's running with some older guys. Watch who you run around with. They running with these older guys and got hold to some Boone's Farm apple wine, and it was sweet. And he was used to drink Kool-Aid. And it tastes better than Kool-Aid. And he drank some of that Boone's Farm apple wine. That's what he did. He was in the 8th grade. But the best thing happened to him that could ever happen, he drank too much. Oh, so y'all don't know this feeling. This is what I'm telling you. He said he drank too much. And if you drink too much, y'all don't want to experience this. Don't ever experience this. He drank too much and he got sick. But after that, he told me he made up his mind. If I talk to him right now, 50-some years later, do they still make Boone's Farm apple wine? Somebody said, yeah, they still do. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's good. They still make it. But you can ask him now, have you had any Boone's Farm? He'll tell you. I can't tell you what he would tell me, but anyway. he would just say, no, I haven't had any boons before. But you know why? Because he made up his mind. And that's, that's just another picture. But the prodigal son, one version of it says, but when he came to himself. The next one below, when he came to his senses. Sometimes you got to come to yourself. For if you want self-control. So the prodigal son was, he was the opposite of self-control. He was out of control. That's a big difference. Being out of control, sometimes you can get out there and get out of control, and then you have to come to your senses. And it normally takes a hard fall to bring you to your senses. A lot of people don't come to their senses when the good times are rolling. It almost invariably will be some bad occasion, bad situation that will bring them to their senses. These are some questions from the book. What are some of your most difficult battles? This is just for you. Someone might have a problem with attitude. That's also a little bit of self-control. Somebody says something, you don't fly off the handle. Another may have controlling habits. Still another may gossip. See, those are all, you have to control that. And sometimes to stop gossip. Y'all have heard gossip before? Y'all heard that? When I was growing up, we used to have what they call a party line. If you want to hear some good gossip, you pick up the phone sometimes. You could be on the phone with somebody you didn't even know. But you could find out what's going on in their life. Pick up that phone. What's going on? Hey. It start getting good. Then you start, invariably they'll hear you, but but a party line, gossip. Hey, let's go here. Self and not anyone else tonight. These are some questions also I made up. If you get it, can you lose it? That's self-control. If you lose it, can you regain it? Can someone give you their portion of self-control? Those are all questions. Okay, here. See, to keep self-control, I was talking to some of the brothers, you have to remember where you came from and what you've gone through. If you want to control yourself, you have to remember. This right here, someone reminded me, this is a number 3 tub. Y'all know what a number 3 tub, anyone ever seen a number 3 tub? Yeah. So they reminded me that they remember to control themselves, this is where I came from. I've made it out of there. This number 3 tub. There's a term that says, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I didn't know what that meant. I heard that. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know where that came from? See, people used to bathe in the tub. The daddy get in there first. The mama get in there second. I'm talking about the same water, by the way. I'm just telling you how it used to be. The oldest child got in there next. The last one that got in there was the baby. And therefore the water was, y'all can imagine, the term don't throw the baby out with the bath water. That's where that was birthed. Remembering where you came from can help you control yourself. Anyone remember when you used to eat the beef bologna? See, you remember now. They say, well, that's bad for you. It's a different day. So we had a dog when I grew up. You can order dog food now online. We didn't have online service. Remember where you came from. I kind of forgot. I was out of town and I said, I'm just going to get me a bologna sandwich. I was at the Residence Inn. I went in, they have dishes in there on the stove. I was excited. I bought me a loaf of bread. I said, all I wanted is a bologna sandwich. And I bought that bologna sandwich, and I forgot how it rises up. When you put it in there, it rises up. And I was fighting with that bologna sandwich to keep it down. The grease was popping all over. And I said, man, I forgot about that. It had been a long time since I cooked a bologna sandwich. But I got about 4 or 5 pieces after fighting and putting it down. Remember where you came from. See, if you can remember, for self-control, if you can kind of remember where you came from. See, sometimes you advance beyond certain foods. But I was always happy to say, look, this is a meal right here. Somebody said, where's the meat? You don't need the meat, right? What you talking about the meat? You put a few more beans in there. That's bean. So remember where you came from. This kind of thing. See, y'all don't. I was reminded when I went to Hawaii. We went to Hawaii and went to McDonald's. Yeah, so Hawaii, some of y'all been to Hawaii, you go to McDonald's and you look on the menu and they have Spam and rice. What you say, Spam and rice? I never see that in America, Spam and rice on the menu. Some of us grew up with that. And now you all, this is the first time you've seen this, but these is what they used to call food stamps. So you have to for self-control, you remember. So when I grew up with these, this is poor folk money. I would get the food, but when my mama went up to the cashier, I don't want anybody to see me with these food stamps. Conveniently got in aisle number 6 till mama got through. But remember where you came from. That'll help you control self. Now, see, we were popular in the neighborhood. We were very popular in the neighborhood. See, we were very popular because we had a product that no one else had. That was government cheese. See, we were popular. First of the month come around, you see people you ain't seen in 29 days. We ain't seen her in 29. What you got any government cheese? Yeah, we got some. I lived off of toasted in the oven, cheese and bread. That's what I lived off of. The government cheese. My wife and I were in Tyler, Texas. I didn't know they still made it. I was just joking with the lady. She's 74. I said, you remember that? She said, I got some right now. I said, I ain't eating that because that's from the 19th. She said, no, they still make that. I didn't know that. But it's very small though. But remember where you came from. See, that's how it used to look when you took it out. Now, for some of you all in the 40s, this is not about all the 70s and all that. See, some of y'all got to remember where you came from. When y'all were coming up, you had to go play in an arcade these games. You didn't have no games at home. Now y'all got all kind of games and set up. Self-control, you remember where you came from. And y'all were playing with this little Nintendo box. That's what y'all had. Some of y'all still have it at the house now, huh? Xbox wasn't even around then. And then some of y'all these are some of the games you play, some of these little, now they're playing Roblox. Minecraft. Fortnite. Yeah, y'all had to play this back in the day.
I sure did.
And y'all were eating stuff like this. See, remember where you came from. You might have stepped up your game and didn't do Spam, but you were eating these Hot Pockets. And then eating these potato skins. See, some of y'all already getting hungry. I lost some of y'all already. I lost your beans and cornbread, right? Let me move through this. Some of y'all are eating a Mr. T cereal. Yeah. Yeah. Gentleness, as we close out. We got gentleness last. It's a little bit more than just being gentle. It should bring some joy to you. You know, I muted the sound here, I didn't put the sound, but that's what gentleness looks like. I'm happy that I could help someone. I'm gentle. That's really what it looks like. The opposite, as we close out, I'm not going to define gentleness because you know what it is, but here's what the opposite of gentleness is. Here's some words. Pugnacious. See, that doesn't even sound right. I don't want to be pugnacious, whatever it is. You pugnacious. No, I'm not pugnacious. Yeah, and then hot-tempered. We know what that is. Got to work on that. And then we're talking about gentleness. The opposite of it is argumentative, hostile, warlike, fiery, confrontational. I know y'all don't ever see that at the church, because we don't have church folk like that fit into this. If they were pugnacious, you wouldn't even know it, by the way, but that's the definition of the opposite of gentleness. Hey, that's our lesson for the night. Our time is spent. Appreciate everyone's participation. And so we always offer the invitation to anyone that's in need of hearing the word, which you've already heard it. We looked at some examples of where Jesus is speaking. So if there's anyone tonight that want to be baptized or want to know more about the church, that's what we're here for. We'll let you know more about the church. Is there anyone in the audience that want to be baptized tonight? Maybe you've been studying with someone and you feel a need. Tonight is the night. Anyone? Anyone want to know more about the church? Is there anyone want to know more about the church? Well, we have a gentleman here that wants to know more about the church. And we'll be getting with you, sir, right after. We'll get with you and get your name. That's what we'll do. We appreciate you, by the way. Any visitors, by the way, let's see, want to recognize any visitors that we have tonight. You can stand where you are so we will recognize you. Any visitors in the audience tonight? Well, excellent. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. So we appreciate you coming out tonight. So we'll kill the live stream and we'll see if anyone has any prayer requests tonight. We'll pray for you as we close out. Anyone have any prayer requests tonight? You can stand where you are and let your request be known. We'll bring
Just pray for me for spiritual strength